Hello lovelies, I'm back. Welcome family, welcome to my channel. This is my second time recording this video. I'm on my new laptop, so I figuring out how to do the audio on here. And so I finally figured it out, so I'm recording this again. But for this particular video, I wanted to do an article on originalpeople.org, and it's about the American Aborigines again. And the reason why I wanted to do this video again was because I got a comment from someone. One of my commenters or viewers said that was offensive that I called African Americans American Aborigines. And so I did this video because I'm doing this video because I wanted to explain why I use American Aborigines and explain why and show and educate everyone on why American Aborigine is not a negative term. It's not a negative connotation for African Americans because it's more accurate of who we really are as indigenous people here in the Americas. And because there have been some findings that's been found, for over a decade now, almost a little over a decade now, that's proven that we were already over here. And some of the findings that were discovered by archaeologists are now showing that we were already over here. And this picture here is a picture of the remains that were discovered by the archaeologists right on the tip of Brazil. And the article is the first Americans were black, according to the BBC documentary. And so I know I'm doing repetition, and I know some of you all already know this, but I had to share this again. And I think through constant repetition that our brothers and sisters who are lost or who want to gain this knowledge will finally realize or have a better understanding that we were already over here and that we were, that our ancestors are the Aborigines. And so that's why we call ourselves the American Aborigines. And so, let me stroll on down. Now, it says right here, BBC documentary, Ancient Voice Tracking the First Americans. And then it has the actual documentary right here on YouTube. And I'm going to share a clipping of that a little bit later. But I'm going to go into the first part of this article. It says here, this article, it says Thursday, August 26, 1999, published, and this is when it was published. It says the first Americans were descended from the Australian Aborigines, according to evidence in new BBC documentary. It says the skulls suggest faces like those of Australian Aborigines. The program Ancient Voices shows that the dimensions of prehistoric skulls found in Brazil match those of the Aboriginal people of Australia and Malaysia. Other evidence suggests that these first Americans were later massacred by invaders from Asia. Until now, Native Americans were believed to be descended from Asian ancestors who arrived over a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska and then migrated across the whole of North and South America. The land bridge was formed 11,000 years ago during the Ice Age when the sea levels dropped. So this is proving and pretty much saying that the Mongoloids were not the first. The Mongoloids, aka Native Americans, were not the first. That there were another ethnic group that were already over here, racial group, which is the American Aborigines, and they come from Australia, which is us, the aka African Americans. This gives us further support that we were already over here. And it says here, this is a picture of an Australian Aborigine right here. The skull suggests faces like those of Australian Aborigines. And then it says here, however, the new evidence shows that these people did not arrive in an empty wilderness. Stone tools and charcoal from the site in Brazil show evidence of human habitation as long ago as 50,000 years ago. The site of the Serra de Capria is remote northeast Brazil. This area is not inhabited by the descendants of European settlers and African slaves who arrived just 500 years ago. So, but the cave paintings found that provided the first clue of evidence of a much older group of people. So, right here, I was looking over here, it says here 500 years ago. This is what we're talking about. This is a misnomer. They captured a lot of the indigenous Indians that were over here. And it says African slaves. This is also a misnomer because they say African slaves, but there were already melanated people already here in the Americas. This finding, this research and everything is proving that Aborigines were already over here. And since they had Aborigines over here and they traveled and explored throughout the Americas, the remains of these people are scattered throughout the Americas. That proves that there were people of color who were Negroes. Negroes, people who look like me, were Afros. Just like this picture up here, melanated people. So we were already over here. So all they did was enslave. Majority of the slaves that were captured were already here in the Americas. They enslaved the indigenous people, and this research further proves this as fact. And I also want to mention that they didn't have the technology back then to bring over millions of people like they claim they did. They keep on claiming that 18 million people were brought over into the Americas, but they didn't have engines back then. You know, they're talking about the 14, 15, 16, 17, and probably the early 1800s. They didn't have big old huge steel boats made with engines to bring over large groups of people like that. They had wooden boats, and they only brought in a few, especially here in the Americas. Now, I know they brought in some African slaves, but here in the Americas, it was not nearly as many they claim they have. We were already over here. The research and everything, Emory University's research on the transatlantic slave shows that we were already over here. So it further proves that there were not many ships that were brought over here into the United States. And maybe we had some sent to North and Central America, North and South America, I meant to say. But here in the Americas, America were producing their own slaves. And they were using the indigenous people in order to do so. And it says, here's a picture right here. And the costume and ritual routes of art survived in Terra del Fuego. Here's a picture, but I'm going to go back up and I want to play the video. I will just play a small clipping of it so you can get a gist of what I'm pretty much saying about the American Aborigines already being over here. So I'm just going to play a little bit of it so you can see. And if you all want to see the whole video, I'm going to put a link of this article so you can have access to it and you can see and play it for yourself.
Mongoloid peoples were the first to enter the New World, or so experts thought. The Brazilian finds point to a very different story of the discovery of the Americas. The paintings on these rock shelters are much older than the Indians. Here, hunters hunters chased giant armadillos, an animal that flourished during the ice.
Sorry about that, you guys. I'm trying to make sure this. Sorry about that, you guys. I just was trying to make sure y'all heard it. Hopefully, it didn't go in and out, but I just wanted to make sure you all heard the video, okay? But anyway, I wanted to continue on with this article and read a little bit more of it for you guys to hear. And like I said, this is the artwork that was found of a ritual scene. It says the images of giant armadillos which died before the last ice age show that the artists who drew them lived before even the natives who greeted the Europeans. And it says here the ancient people have facial features described as mongoloids. However, skulls dug from dust equivalent to 9,000 to 12,000 years ago are very different. Walter Neves, an archaeologist from the University of Sao Paulo, has taken extensive skull measurements from dozens of skulls, including the oldest, a young woman who has been called Lucia. The measurement shows that Lucia was anything but Mongoloid, he says. And this is the picture of the scientist, the archaeologist right here. Walter Neves has measured hundreds of skulls, and here they are. And it says here the next step was to restructure her face from Lucia's skull first. A CAT scan of the skull was done to allow an accurate working model to be made. Then a forensic artist, Richard Nell from the University of Manchester, UK, created a face for Lucia. The results were surprising. It has all the features of the Negroid face, says Dr. Neves. And here's a picture of the skull right here. Lucia's skull is 12,000 years old. Here it is right here. And it says here, the skull dimensions and facial features match most closely to the native people of Australia and Melanesia. These people were dated back about 60,000 years ago and were themselves descended from the first humans who left Africa about 100,000 years ago. So these are ancient people. Melanesia are people of color. They're melanated. They have dark skin. They're melanated, and it's interesting that the area is called Melanesia. I'm sorry, Melanesia. I'm mispronouncing. And so melanin. You can look at it that way. So these are ancient groups of people, you guys. But let's continue. It says, but how could the early Australians have traveled more than 13,000 kilometers, which is roughly 8,450 miles at that time? The answers come from some of the cave paintings, these time from the Kimberley region in the north tip of Western Australia. And it shows the picture of the model that was created. And here's the face. It says the face of the first known American, Lucia. And that's from the remains that were found. Here's a picture of her. And she looks just like us. Yes. And then this goes on to explain the voyage. It says here, Graham Walsh, an expert in Australian rock art, found that the oldest paintings of the boat anywhere in the world, the style of the art means it's at least 17 17,000 years old, but could be up to 50,000 years old. Wow. See, that is really ancient. And the crucial details of how proud the boat would have been unnecessary for the boat used in calm inland waters. The design suggests it was used on open oceans. See, we were world travelers, so they traveled all the way from Australia all the way over to the Brazil, and they try to say that they died out, but I don't believe they died out. They moved further north and inland towards Central America and North America. So I believe they were all over. And since these people traveled from Australia, they did not die out. These people were willing to travel even further, and they are us, pretty much. These are our ancestors. Finally, we found who we originate from, and it makes sense that we are related to these people, and that we were already over here. And so I just wanted to share this with you all. I know I constantly say this over and over again, but I'm just trying to explain to people who still do not know, because I'm pretty sure there's still some people, many of our brothers and sisters, who still are in the dark about the fact that we were already over here, that we were indigenous, and that we were related to the Aborigines. And that's why we should be calling ourselves American Aborigines, because Aboriginal means that you're the original people, that you're indigenous here, and that you're ancient, pretty much. And I came across an article that shows that they have pulled some DNA from an African American here in the Americas. I believe it was in North Carolina. I'm gonna read that article and share that with you all in another video. And it proves that we date hundreds of thousands of years ago, 100,000 years ago. The DNA traced back from the paternal side, and it goes way back. And it further proves that we are an ancient group of people. We were already over here in the Americas. We populated the whole globe. Okay? The whole globe. And that's why we need to show our indigenous roots here, because it's a part of our identity, our culture, and showing that we're here for thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. It shows that this is our home. This is our homeland. We were the first to populate this continent and the globe, because we're connected to we're related to and connected to the Africans as well. We were the first world travelers, and that's what we need to understand and know. And then this article further explains the fantastic voyage that the Aborigines made across the ocean to get here into the Americas, which I think is awesome. The documentary explains it and go into detail about it. And so, and then down here at the bottom, here's a picture of one of the descendants, where she's mixed, though. She's not a full-blooded Aborigine. It says here, her name is Regine Christina Calderon, may be the first of the few surviving descendants of the first Americans. The only evidence of the survivors come from Tierra del Fuego, the islands of the remote southern tip of South America. And I disagree with them. I believe that they made it to the tip of Brazil. More than likely, they were all over the Americas. And this is something they want to hide, because they still want to throw the same old narrative that we came from Africa. And the reason why is because they don't want to show that we were indigenous here and we were the first ones here, prior to the Mongoloid Indians and prior to the Great Caucasians, the Europeans. And that's the reason why. And it says here that they mentioned the hybrid bones and the features and the intermarrying. Here it is right here, the pre-European fusions. That's before the Great Caucasians got here, who lived, Stone Age style, lived until this century, show hybrid skull features, which could have been result on intermarrying between Mongoloid and Negro people. See? And that's how you get these Mongoloids and these hybrid looking people. They're actually mixed with us, the Negroes, and the Mongols, which are the Native Americans. And that's how you get them. And that's how a lot of these Indians on these reservations look. Some of them, I won't say a lot, because a lot of them in the United States look like great Caucasians because they were the actual settlers who stole the identity of the Negroes, which is my people, the African, the American Aborigines, the AKA African Americans. And it says here the rituals and traditions also bear some resemblance to the ancient rock art in Brazil, which is interesting. Wow. And it says here the identity of the first Americans is a motive and controversial question. No, it's not. It's all about racism, and it's all about great Caucasian want to keep the narrative alive that we were not here, and that want to claim being the true American, which they're not. There was rich history, 100,000 years before they even touched their foot here on this soil, in this continent. And this is something that they try to deny and continue to whitewash, and this is something that we need to continue to call them out on and expose and re-educate our people on the truth so that we can have everything rewritten the right way and documented the right way, and so that everybody know who their true identity is and that we were already over here. Our brothers and sisters have a right to this truth and knowing who they really are, and educating ourselves and knowing who we are. But the evidence from Brazil and a handful of people who still live in the tip of South America suggests that America has been home to a greater diversity of people than previously thought, and for much longer. So they're realizing that, in other words, they keep on saying diversity, but in reality, American Aborigines were already over here. The indigenous people were melanated people with afros that look just like me, and the AKA African Americans. And this is the part of history that they always graywash and erase. And I wanted to share and explain to you, this is why we should not be offended about calling ourselves American Aborigines. And if you understood your history and understand how far back our roots are here in the Americas, you understand that you should be calling yourself American Aborigine instead of African American, because when you call yourself African American, you're actually saying that you just stepped here on this soil only 500 years ago, 300 to 500 years ago, or that you are a recent person that just came over from America. If you're a descendant of a slave, more than likely you're an Aborigine. You're American Aborigine. Okay? Because that's what they did. They mostly, in the United States, captured the Indians and threw them into slavery. It was not as many African slaves brought here, according to Emory University's research. And that's why I call myself American Aborigine, and that's why I also call the African Americans the American Aborigines, those who are descendants of slaves. And that's something that we also need to consider. We are a distinct group of people. We are the true indigenous people. The African American term and name and label should be only for people who just came here from Africa fairly recently. And the American Aborigines should be the name that's label that should be given to the people who are descendants of slaves here in the Americas. Because I feel like we're a distinct group of people, and it's already been proven that all they did was throw the indigenous people in slavery. So we are the true Indians that's here in this continent, aka American Aborigine, that they found here, that the Europeans originally found here in the Americas, in the United States in particular, in Virginia, on the East Coast. But please like this video and thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. And please subscribe to my channel on Black Junction TV. I'm also over there. I have a Facebook page. Please like the Facebook page and also join my Facebook group. And, you can also check out my GoFundMe, the PayPal, and all that. I have that as well. Till next time. Peace, family. I'm getting sleepy. It's raining outside. I'm tired. It's nighttime. And be blessed. And I would love to hear from you guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, family.